Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Moak. My pronouns are she, her. I am the president of the NeuroBats of Access Autism. I am a ACC solo associate, and I am a ACC game design student. And I recently just got my first associates in 3D animation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Moeller. My pronouns are they, them. I am the Vice President of the NeuroBats of Access Autism. I'm also an ACC Grow Associate and an ACC Music student studying opera.
Hello, my name is Sinjin Clark. My pronouns are they, them. I am the events manager of the NeuroBats of Access Autism. I am also an ACC Grow Associate, and I'm currently an ACC manufacturing major.
Hi, my name is Benson Kent. Yeah, my pronouns is he, him. I'm a historian, NeuroBats, ACC Autism Group, and I'm a Ghost Associate.
Thank you, Brenton. And so then Lydia it's awesome. Lydia's not here today, but we will see some video from Lydia. Lydia is a manufacturing student who has actually just gained an apprenticeship with the company for manufacturing. And we're just really proud of her for that. And she advocated for higher pay, which was fantastic for her to do as well. Oh, and she got it. And then last but not least, Andrew Lyon is the person that's going to be doing our slide deck. Andrew, can you say hi?
Hi, I'm the guy in the booth, and as the new guy, I am appreciative to Lydia for getting the higher pay. Yeah, excited to be here. I'm the guy in the booth today.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so let's get started. So first, we're going to start off with a sneak peek of what you're going to see, and also some of the accomplishments that the students have obtained going through their journey here at ACC. As Grow Associates, they're learning professional skills such as speaking, presenting, collaboration, networking, professional communication. In some of these pictures, you can see Aaron Muller and myself got to present at South by Southwest. Aaron has written many newsletters for advocacy. Aaron and Danielle have received the Thrive Awards. These other two pictures are the murals that are Danielle's using her skills from her major to create murals on our campuses. Brenton's received their first paycheck through this program. And Sinjin is going to be starting some podcasting coming up and also is being mentored by Danielle in working on projects. So let's watch this little video. Oh, all animations are created by Danielle as well. So as you can see, students are presenting to their peers on important things revolving social cognition and social interactions. My work is working with students one-on-one and in group, working on those executive functioning skills and social cognition skills. So Aaron, can you help us with the neurodivergent umbrella?
So, the neurodivergent umbrella encompasses all these diagnoses right here, but neurodiversity and more, but neurodiversity as a term is a concept and a social movement to recognize the natural variation of neurological traits. So, like I said, as you can see, the umbrella includes a multitude of diagnoses, but the neurodivergent movement is designed to inform and to also build awareness that everybody has strengths. And when you are supporting neurodivergent persons using a strength based approach, that is the key to reaching them.
Thank you, Erin. So let's move on to some statistics. What we know, nearly 42% of young adults who experience autism never work for pay during their early 20s. More than 66% of young adults on the autism spectrum are unemployed and are not engaged in higher education up to 2 years after exiting high school. 15 to 20% of the world's population is neurodivergent, with 10% diagnosed with dyslexia, 5% with ADHD, and 1 to 2% diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. With that in mind, and moving forward in our presentation, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the neurodivergent brain. And some of you might know this already, have seen this, but I like to start off with this because it helps us understand where the barriers in executive functioning can be coming from. So Russell A. Barkley has created this template to kind of show us what it is. So there's two types of brain signaling: bottom up, where something we sense catches our attention and it influences our thoughts. Then for neurotypical people, then they can go to how the brain reacts by tossing the communication to the prefrontal cortex, right? And then it goes into the interior, into the back of the brain, and then they can regulate and then give a response. However, for a neurodivergent brain, this is opposite. The top down it takes over from the bottom up, and that's why you see more reaction-based behaviors rather than being able to sometimes respond more appropriately, right? So moving on, Danielle, what should people take away from our presentations?
Behavior is a form of communication, especially for autistic persons.
So we tell this to people because we know that behavior can't be accommodated under ADA. However, because of brain signaling, the formulation of language can be difficult for a response, and sometimes that response in the moment. And that can shut a student down. And instead of thinking, oh, they're avoiding or they're just being difficult, maybe we remove those stigmas and we think about what's happening. Why did they shut down? And then go from there. Okay, we're going to move into our masking. And I know some of you maybe have seen this video before of Erin. Erin and Danielle did a presentation to the Austin Police Department and talked to, I don't know, was it like 50 police officers? In this video, I'd like you, after Erin reads you the definition, I'd like you to pay attention to what's happening in this video with Erin, and if you can identify where masking is happening and where it's not. Erin, can you read the definition, please?
So masking is a social and behavioral coping mechanism that many individuals with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, may develop to navigate social situations and to fit into societal norms.
Thank you, Erin. And that is it's involving concealing or suppressing one's autistic traits, right, or behaviors. It's so that they can try to appear more neurotypical to others. You know, it's like they're trying to fit into society, so they put on this mask thinking that that's what they have to do in order to fit in. And sometimes it's not done that well, and then they become seen as awkward. So just being aware of masking is helpful for our students. So we don't jump to stigmas, but we're actually thinking beyond that and trying to support in more meaningful ways. Cue the video.
I think I'm gonna have to mask in order to give this presentation, but I really don't want to, so that everybody could see me for my true self. So I'm going to begin now. Okay. I gave you those papers because on the second page it shows a list of all of my diagnoses. I have 24 diagnoses. Some of them are invisible, others you can see. I'm 29 years old. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the vice president of the student media at Accent Student Media at Austin Community College, and the vice president of NeuroBats of Access Autism, a neuro-inclusive student-led organization. I am also in the running for vice president of student government at Austin Community College. I'm a sexual assault survivor at the age of 11. Like I said, I have 24 different diagnoses. But I'm 29 years old, and not everyone is comfortable revealing their diagnoses for many reasons. They could be afraid, like I was, or they could already understand that labeling yourself as neurodivergent or autistic automatically puts you in a position to be judged harshly by others. Although it may be my responsibility to make sure I'm okay, I believe there is an onus on police officers to do research and understand the differences between someone being on drugs, somebody going through a mental breakdown or a shutdown, or self-regulating themselves. I never mentioned earlier, but I dropped out when I was 15 years old, which is probably some of the students that you work with now.
I think it's a mix.
Yeah, mix.
I dropped out when I was 15, a year early. But if you were to ask me today if I'm upset how the police at the previous college responded to the 911 call about me, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily upset. I understand that many people may not understand my trauma or struggles just to be alive. However, I do wish that that person who called the cops on me approached me, or at least attempted to. I wasn't doing anything but jumping up and down, singing, crying, which was actually my way of being in a really happy space. I was listening to my music and lost in my own world. What, am I upset? No. Those police, they approached me calmly, slowly. They immediately noticed my STEM toy. They let me know somebody called me in, but they told me that I wasn't in trouble. And then they used a calming voice, a non-threatening demeanor, and spoke to me very slowly. They allowed me time to ramble, and I rambled for probably 20 minutes. And I told them my entire life story, which is something I tend to do, but they gave me a chance to speak for myself, advocate for myself, and explain myself. I wish all police officers did that. Thank you.
As you can see, Aaron starts the video off with, I think I'm going to have to mask. But can anybody tell me or anything that they saw where Aaron was unmasking?
So I know for me, so I was very nervous, especially because I was around police officers, which I haven't had good experiences in the past. But I did want them to see what stimming for me looks like. Because I am a high masking individual, being comfortable enough to completely unmask is almost impossible for me. But I tried to unmask by allowing people to see my stims, which was me moving my arms, me sometimes stuttering, and I wanted them to see the way that my brain processes things.
Thank you for that. So we're going to move into 4 aspects of masking that typically can be stigmatized, and each student is going to give you an example. First, we're going to talk about eye contact. Some individuals with autism find direct eye contact uncomfortable, but they may force themselves to make eye contact to meet social expectations. However, that makes it very hard for them to pay attention to what's going on because they're trying to just hold the eye contact because the stigma is that they're not honest people or they're being deceiving or whatever because they're not making eye contact. So Danielle, can you give us an example?
Ascension.
As Sam mentioned, it is stigmaed that you're supposed to maintain eye contact for conversations. However, in my case, I have a very hard time maintaining eye contact for longer than like a couple of seconds. Like, it's hard to describe the feeling. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes my voice speed up. It is very hard to do. And in situations where I'm forced to maintain eye contact, it makes me very uncomfortable and it's hard to talk normally because of that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
St. John. And the next one we're going to talk about is camouflaging. So camouflaging involves consciously adjusting behavior to appear more socially adept and conform to societal expectations. So what this might include is suppressing repetitive behaviors or intense interests that are characteristics of autism. You saw Aaron stimming. If students can't self-regulate by doing a movement and we tell them to stop that, please don't do that, it's not appropriate, it's going to be very hard for them to hold that in and not be able to do it because it is a way that they are self-regulating their body so that they can stay focused. It might be, you know, doodling during class. It might be tapping or anything, playing with the hair, needing to stand up. So because of camouflaging and societal norms of we don't do those things because they're disruptive, students that are autistic or neurodivergent try to hold that in themselves, and it becomes exhausting and hard to comprehend and deal with. So the thing is that we aren't encouraging behaviors that are disruptive in the classroom, but instead of going to the thought that they're just wanting to be disruptive, maybe talk to the student, tell them the why behind it, and then move to how can we replace that big behavior with something else. Aaron, can you give us an example of camouflaging?
So, like I said previously, I spent my whole life masking. Uh, I I grew up with people telling me that autism didn't exist, that it was an excuse for me not to try harder. So for my entire childhood, I learned how to mask to appear neurotypical and neuronormative like everybody else around me. But that caused very deep ridden shame within me. So one way that I do that, like you saw in the video, is, or I didn't stop myself from masking, which was moving my hands, moving my body, saying certain things. It helped self-regulate myself, but I wasn't able to do it completely because that's very hard for me to do. But when I do that, it helps everything in my head feel more quiet, and it feels better when I'm doing that.
Thank you, Aaron. So let's move on to social mimicry. And so these slides that you're seeing, Danielle created these to help us have a visual to understand each one of these. So social mimicry, individuals may observe and imitate the behaviors of their neurotypical peers so they can blend into society, right? Copying facial expressions, gestures, social cues, even if they don't fully understand the underlying social dynamics behind those. And so they may not fit into the situation. They may mimic it and it might not match the situation. So Danielle, can you give us an example of this?
Yeah. So growing up, at first, I didn't really think that I did social mimicry, but then I kind of realized that I did quite when I was younger. I do have an example of this. Back in Mexico, I was at a really big party with my mom, and I really wanted my mom's attention, but she was too busy drinking and chatting with her friends. I was just looking around and I saw a mom with her child, and the child smeared some cake on the mom's face, and they were so happy and smiling. And my little kid brain went, "Oh, that's what I should do." So I grabbed some cake and I put it on my mom's face, and her face turned bright red and she immediately started yelling and ridiculing me. I immediately learned to never do that again. As an adult now, I realized that I did that to try to understand a lot of social norms. I did that to try to fit in or try to get attention from other people. But as an adult now, I realize that being myself is enough, and a lot of people love who I am, just being me.
That's right. Because you're pretty awesome. And if anybody's met Danielle or any of the students that are here today, you'll know how you know how awesome they are, and willing to share and express and self-advocate and advocate and teach and educate others. So let's talk about echolalia. This is repeating words and phrases or sentences that they hear from others, and it serves them to navigate and participate in conversations, but again, it could be off, right? And it also is like it's like mimicking or self-talk. So Danielle, can you give us another example or an example of echolalia?
Yeah. So my boyfriend actually has echolalia. He says a lot of things under his breath. He repeats things that he has heard, said, or like seen. A lot of things he will repeat is like from videos he saw or funny like movie clips. He will just repeat what he says under his tone, like under his breath after he says something. It also is how he stems too. He'll be walking back and forth and kind of talking to himself. That's how he thinks through things. When we're in public, I know that people look at him weird, but we both don't care because we're both just being ourselves and we kind of just ignore it. But it's like that's pretty much what he does, and that's how he like thinks through stuff.
Thank you, Danielle. Now you might be thinking, well, that could be disruptive in a classroom environment, right? So part of our work or my work is helping teach replacement behaviors, like maybe let's use squishy balls to kind of self-regulate. The professor's having a conversation and saying, it's okay for you to stand up and kind of walk in the back of the room as long as it's not disrupting. So just talking to the students and just like you would anybody else is key for their growth. So that brings us next to Brenton.
Texting is exhausting.
Yeah, masking is exhausting. So while it can help individuals with autism navigate social situations, it can come at a big cost. The effort to mask can mentally and emotionally drain and even potentially contribute to stress, anxiety, and a sense of social isolation. So think about that. If these are things that they're not aware of because nobody wants to actually have the conversation with them, but yet they're being looked at as odd or what's wrong with that person, people tend to pull away. They end up in isolation, social isolation. So recognizing and understanding masking and these aspects is important when providing supports and creating those environments where individuals feel accepted and understood for who they are.
Yes, so masking leads to autistic burnout, which leads to a mental health crisis. And what I mean by this is that as autistic individuals, we feel that pressure to mask and to camouflage our autistic trait in order to conform, like we said, to those neurotypical standards and expectations. So that can give us extreme emotional exhaustion. So masking in itself is incredibly draining and exhausting, both mentally and physically. So that state of exhaustion and overwhelm can make it difficult for us to have executive function. It causes increased sensory activity, social withdrawal, like Sam said, but it also decreases our ability to mask. So if it's not addressed, like Sam said, it can lead to a lot of other problems too, like mental health crisis, like depression, anxiety, but also suicide ideation.
Thank you, Erin. So what is autistic burnout by definition, Erin?
So by definition, autistic burnout refers to a state of mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion that results from the continuous stress of trying to navigate a world that is not always accommodating to autistic or neurodivergent persons.
Thank you. So now let's talk about the distinction between autistic burnout and general burnout. They're very distinct from each other. Autistic burnout is where autistic persons experience chronic stressors of living and working in a neurotypical world and coping with the sensory and social stressors around them. General burnout is associated with pressures due to work and life responsibilities. So if you're an autistic person, not only are you dealing with the pressures of work and life responsibilities, but you're also experiencing higher stress, just trying to live and work in a neurotypical world. And coping with the sensory processing, where the heightened senses can be inputted and make a autistic person's brain get more exhausted. From this, we're going to talk about spoon theory. Well, Lydia's going to talk about spoon theory so that you can understand from person's point of view, their own point of view, their experience of how you would understand what autistic burnout is and how it feels. So play the video.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lydia Chen, and I'm here to explain spoon theory. Spoon theory is very simple. It was created by a chronically ill blogger, and now people all over the world use it to describe their limited capacity. So essentially, one spoon represents a single unit of energy. It can be subdivided and can even go into the negative, but we'll get to that later. One spoon really can only get you so far. A single spoon might be able to get the laundry washed and dried, but not necessarily get it folded and put away. Environmental conditions can affect how far a spoon will stretch. For example, whether you have social support or you're facing stigma. Things like the quality of sleep you get can also affect how far your spoons will stretch you. Most of us operate in what we call spoon debt every day, meaning that we will borrow from tomorrow to try to get done everything that we need to get done today. Taking the time to even explain to someone why a task that they see as easy would be more taxing is in and of itself taxing, unfortunately. I think one theme you might hear from neurodivergent people is that we break things down further than most other people do in their brains. So, for example, a task like cleaning up the kitchen is not just one task. It actually requires, assembling the cleaning supplies and preparing whatever sensory aids you might need to navigate that challenge, making sure that, all the cups are collected from around the house or whatever it is, right? But something that may sound simple when you phrase it that way is actually, it can be intimidating to a neurodivergent brain who only has so many spoons, and tasks that require more planning, like grocery shopping. You need to be conscious of your budget and your time available to cook the groceries that you're buying, and make a list and go in ahead of time. All of these things, including being in an environment that's lit by fluorescence, take spoons, unfortunately. All of these things represent the mental load that in and of itself takes spoons to maintain. Oftentimes, neurodivergent folks will come up against people who have never had to consider their spoons more than a day in their life. In my experience, the person who doesn't have to consider their spoons day to day has a hard time accepting that other people's resources are more limited than theirs. The key takeaway is really that it's hard to predict exactly how your resources are going to get used up throughout the day. Filming this video cost me at least 3 spoons, and I'm done.
So there you see that I know you just saw a short clip of that video, but that video is actually a lot longer, and one of our other hourly students helped cut it down. And you could see a physical change and you could hear the change in Lydia as she went through that video, and you could hear where she started to kind of fade off and get a little confused in her talk. She did a fantastic job, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is you can kind of see some indicators if a student is heading towards burnout. Her hair started to become a little disheveled, and her eyes started to kind of heavy a little more. So a lot of my male students, I notice either when they're going to escalate or they're having burnout, their hair stands on end. It's just something that I notice and I can tell, and it's an indicator for me that I need to do some intervention with them to help calm them down or talk through whatever's happening, or just give them that space to talk without me even interrupting or giving feedback, or just letting them have a space to kind of be quiet and still for a moment. So next up is the characteristics and symptoms of autistic burnout. And you're welcome to take a picture of this slide if you would like to. This came from Autistic Burnout. Are you going through burnout? A different organization we've noted down in the bottom. But the constant effort of masking can lead to this phenomenon. And it just takes a taxing toll on their mental and emotional health. Just trying to fit in every day, just knowing how to engage others and speak to others. It can result in withdrawal, loss of skills, and a heightened sensory sensitivities. So we're just building more awareness about masking and autistic burnout, so others can understand that it's just not a stigma what we think a student might be going through. It's actually this brain that's trying to get through their executive functionings, but it's doing it opposite of what a neurotypical brain would be doing. And it's a neurological issue, and sometimes just giving them the space and the benefit of the doubt is all they need. So you're going to engage with these students right there instead of us looking at a slide the whole time, okay? So the first question is, Brenton, how do you experience autistic burnout?
When I have a lot of schoolwork and work, I get overwhelmed and feel burnt out. I try to stay calm, but it's hard. I try to take a deep breath and try to think positively and tell myself that I can accomplish things, but it is hard. A good strategy for me is keep my tasks in short by breaking things down.
Thank you, Brenton. Appreciate that. Danielle, how about you? How do you experience autistic burnout?
So the first thing that I recognize if I'm having an autistic burnout is the lack of motivation. That is usually the first thing that comes up. I'll start withdrawing with a lot of activities I will normally enjoy, and it feels bad when I do that. It feels I want to be able to go and do my work. I want to be able to go and do these things, but I feel way too tired. I don't want to do it. The reduction of like my interests in usual activities can also change my mood sometimes. My mood will change a little bit. I'll just be not as responsive or as upbeat as I usually am. Another thing that can come up too is early signs of my meltdowns or shutdowns. Loss of motivation is one of them, but increase of particularly meltdowns will start appearing as well. And I will usually hold these meltdowns and I will hold everything in. I'll keep holding everything in until can't hold it in anymore, and it kind of just blows up a little bit. I had a few of these instances is from my peers sometimes. The usual causes of these burnouts and these meltdowns that I have is my difficulty of managing my time. I have Sam always helping me with that. It's very easy to go, I'll just do it a little later, and all of a sudden I'm up 5 in the morning trying to get this done before my class starts at 9 o'clock. When I like feel so burnt out, it feels like I am carrying like 40 pounds on my head. It really does. I have hidden like burdens. I just start feeling really bad, and I'll have really bad headaches. It's not like, oh, I have a tension headache. It's like here. No, my headache is like right here above my head. Like there's just a tense like weight that just hurts right here on top of my head. And I'll sit there and I'll just like try to like rub it or something like that, and it just hurts. And that's when I usually know that I need to take a break. And I usually max all my burnouts and I try to keep it inside, but that's not healthy.
Yeah. So Danielle did a piece of artwork that's to me very powerful. And it's a person on the ground on their knees and like they're literally spreading their head apart. And it says, this is what it feels like to be autistic, or that's her image of
Make
that,
it
right?
stop.
Make it stop is what it says. And it's very impactful and powerful. And I appreciate that you can do that and share that outward. And Danielle is someone that holds her stuff inside. I have to kind of get it out of her. I've known her for a long time, so it's kind of easy for me to be like, what's really going on here, right? So, but taking that time and giving her that space is really important to share. Sinjin, you're up next. How do you experience autistic burnout?
So I tend to experience autistic burnout a lot when I'm reading, actually, which is why I have a hard time with it. You see, 5 or 6 lines of text I can read, but anything after that, and the tops and the bottoms of the letters start to go into a straight line, making it incomprehensible for me, and I find it impossible to read that. And I lose my train of thought, and I spend sometimes 30, 45 minutes to an hour trying to re-find my train of thought. A big sign of my autistic burnout is I am a lot more tired, a lot more on edge, and stressed than I usually am than, say, when I'm going through a normal day without all this busy going on in my brain.
Thank you, Sinjin. And that's a really important piece, I think, that you shared about the reading. A tool I work with the students on is simply taking a piece of paper and covering up a lot of text and only reading the line that they're focusing on that moment or the instruction that they need to focus on in that moment. And they could do that on their computer or, just on pages or whatever. And that helps reduce that sensory and sometimes anxiety around reading. Aaron, you're up. How do you experience autistic burnout?
It's different when there's people looking at me. When I'm burnt out, I lose all motivation. So I don't perform hygiene. I can't shave. I can't clean my house. And like Danielle, I also have a lot more mental shutdowns, a lot more frequently. Usually, though, like Danielle too, I'm also masking through all of that. So someone probably won't even be able to know that I'm burnt out unless I open myself up to them. Usually, if you work closely with me or you know me, you'll be able to see that I'm burnt out, but it's hard to tell. Sometimes, though, when I do lose the executive function capabilities and I'm able to mask, that's when I start to become nonverbal and I start to have memory loss and everything just kind of shuts down completely.
Thank you for that, Aaron. So does anybody have any comments or questions about this question specifically for our students before we move on to the next one? Does anybody want to share how they experience burnout? Okay, Amber Sarker.
Hey y'all, I'm Amber Sarker, and I am lucky enough to be diagnosed with both anxiety and depression. Not trying to brag, but I received burnout due to both of those things, especially my depression. A lot of what Aaron was saying about I don't want to clean, I want to chill. That was me, especially, and I'm sure a lot of us hit this like during COVID times. I was like, that pile can wait. That pile can wait another day. So the good news is that because it is very obvious due to the piles that accumulate when I am going through a bout of depression, I don't have to explain it to my significant other because he's like, oh, the piles are here. We know. So I think just being able to communicate that with the people who are important to you helps me. So I really appreciate y'all sharing how burnout affects you because that helps me as an instructor when I see things that maybe I personally don't have when I feel burnt out. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. So I didn't share this yet, but I'm actually neurodivergent. And the way I experience my burnout is my eyes literally get really heavy. And it's like weights are on them. And then my brain, I can't articulate very well. And my brain just slows down. My tinnitus goes really high. And I just start feeling everything in the space around me. And then I will just go isolate. And then I just don't want it, which is bad for me because if I isolate, then I want to stay there. Right. So I have to push myself out. Does anybody else want to share how they experience burnout, whether it's neurodivergent or not?
My sister does.
All right, Brandy, you're up.
So my input is around burnout, but also the long-term health effects of it that I've actually been working with a functional medicine doctor over the last year to remediate and try to get to the bottom of. And something really fascinating that I learned for women or people who identify with female hormones, cortisol is actually converted from progesterone, and progesterone is very important for female health, for fertility and healthy cycles and PMS and all sorts of things. So basically, like what I'm trying to say is burnout and having consistently high cortisol levels can actually completely trash your hormones, and it takes a lot of work to fix that. So I think burnout, it's a horrible thing, but I think that people should be more conscious of how it can actually affect your physical health long term, because once you get there, it's really hard to fix. and your health is precious. So if you ever feel like, oh, I have to mask because I have to get through this and I can't give up, I can't make people mad at me for quitting, like you have to put yourself first or you can actually make yourself very sick.
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, I have been in that boat. I think many of us have, that we work really hard and we work hard with our students, and sometimes we put our students way above our needs, but then in turn we can't really be the best that we need to be for them because we're not taking care of ourselves. And I've had to learn that lesson. I have great supportive supervisors and students that remind me of that. So thank you for saying that. Does
So we
anybody else?
actually have 2 questions, it seems like, on the chat. The first one is, what are effective ways to get out of self-isolation? It is hard to get out on your own. That's very true.
Yeah. So I'm a blended person that can balance between extrovert and introvert. However, too much extroversion can push me into introversion. And then once I'm there, nobody's going to be pulling me out. So I've had to teach myself techniques of good self-talk, taking breaths, doing a little mindful meditation to slow myself down, think of the positives, like I need to go to the gym. That's what works for me. You have to figure out what works for you to reinforce and remind you that when you do that thing, it makes you feel better. And so I say that, and then I'll sit there and go, oh, but I have to drive there. And I have a lot of anxiety around driving because right after COVID, I got hit by people that just hit and ran or didn't have insurance 6 times. And so I have a lot of anxiety now around driving. So it's like, okay, now, but I got to drive in there and now I got to be around people so that I'll start talking myself back out of it. But then I have to be like able to go, but when you go, you're good for like 2 or 3 days. Identifying where that negative self-talk is coming and try to insert some positive self-talk. And because when you do get up and get out, it mostly, well, from what I've seen with my students, it's very helpful. Does any of the students have recommendations, Sinjin?
Yes. So, as an individual who struggles a lot with isolation, one of the best ways I have found to cope with self isolation is to get out of the house and go to group exercises. An example, Zumba, yoga, because I naturally have a very small social battery. So, in order to compensate for that, I go out every once in a while to have interaction with people that I see on a daily, sometimes weekly basis. And it helps me pretty well.
Thank
All
you.
right, Aaron.
Yeah, answering Nina's question, and also I wanted to answer Janie's. I that doesn't work for me. What Sinjin does because I just won't do it. Like I just won't go outside. I just sit and I stay isolated for a very long time. I was actually isolated for years until I started seeing therapy at ACC, and I actually had to come up with an actual plan with my therapist to get out of the house. Uh, Once I felt ready, though, so I needed to make sure I was ready. Then I created a step-by-step plan, and one of those steps was actually join student organizations. And this kind of leads me to answer Janie. I mean, no. So the student organizations, I was gonna say having being quote unquote like forced to do things because I feel like for me, if I'm not forced to do it, my body just won't care. So I'm not going to do it if I don't have to. So when I have my student organization, NeuroBats of Access Autism, I have my ACC Grow job, and I have things to do. And Sam is really good on checking on us. Having that motivation and those checkups really helps. Finding somebody to body double with. So me and Danielle body double. We have times where we work together. We try to hold each other accountable because if I'm on my own, I just won't do it. And I wanted to answer Janie and Jacqueline's question. I think that Janie's question was when you're going through that burnout, what is the most helpful thing an ACC staff can do to support you, especially if they want to make sure you're okay? And Jacqueline said, it seems like the common accommodation for SAS is extra time on exams or a class note taker. What additional accommodations could be helpful? So for me, having that support system, and then we will get into it later, but having a web of supports is crucial for me. So having Sam to be able to talk to, having my therapist being able to talk to, but also having my professors actually care and listen to me. Sometimes I may go into an office hours and I'm burnt out, so I don't want to do work. I just want somebody there to talk to me, to help me, because everything is very intense in my head, and everything is messed up in my head and so clouded. I can't get out of it myself. So when I'm in an office hours and I'm talking about, okay, what do I have to do? Having that extra time really helps. And I know you asked for more accommodations, but that is probably one that helps me the most. Having more time and not having that pressure of, okay, I have to get this done now, then this, then this, then this. And I stay up, like Danielle said earlier, till 5 a.m. every day trying to get everything done. And to answer Janie, yes, having people who reach out to me helps too. I know that's a lot to ask because sometimes I won't reach out, and I'm learning how to reach out. Uh, we just had a situation where I reached out myself, and that's one of the first times that I've ever done that. And also, when I reach out, sometimes you may not get a response. That's what I used to do. I'd reach out, and people would try calling me, and I would ignore the calls because I can't get myself to actually confront what's happening. But having people to talk about these things with, to make me feel comfortable, an environment where I'm comfortable. Okay, I can answer. Nothing's gonna happen. I'll feel better. That helps me, and I know that that's a lot of work to ask, but it's what has helped me.
And for Erin to go from melting down, completely melting down when something happens or a trigger happens, to moving into a space of, I am going to use the tools that I've been given, is huge. And it's taken quite a while for that. And that's only happened with clinical counseling and the wraparound supports we have at ACC SAS, clinical counseling, transformation coaching, professors who are very helpful and willing to listen. And Erin, when Erin first came to me, Erin could melt down pretty easily, but now Erin self-regulates through that. And to hear just this last week that Erin SOS me, and because that's our message that, hey, I need help, and answer the phone was like, it just threw me back and I almost fell out of my chair, because instead of going to that complete meltdown, to, guess what? I used the tools and I want to figure this out. I need the clarity on what was happening in this situation, and then leave within 15, 20 minutes feeling better about it. It's really a big, huge thing. And so SAS accommodations, of course, are different than what we consider UDL accommodations. So the ADA accommodations, of course, would need to go through the accessibility service, but the just universally designed accommodations are asking the class, is it okay if we dim the lights today? It's okay to wear headphones, right? It's okay to wear one earbud to listen to music while we're working or lecturing. That doesn't mean the student isn't paying attention. Offering things outward that anybody can access, really, because those things are also beneficial for non-neurodivergent people. Having STEM tools in your classroom are helpful. Also, one of the key things that works with myself and my students is having just a conversation like you would with anybody, but explaining the why they shouldn't do something, or the why this answer on the test isn't right when they're trying to argue their point. So it can't just be, well, that's just the way things are. That's not going to work. We need to know why, so that we can adjust and move forward. The other question that was in the chat was, I did have a question about burnout and the spoon system. How can multiple neurodivergent people balance managing responsibilities, preventing burnout while using the spoon system? If two neurodivergent people work together, how should they create balance so neither person gets burned out? So if it's a relationship type situation, having conversations with support people as a couple has been helpful for some of the students. Breaking things down, encouraging that open, honest communication between those two people or people, teach them to respect boundaries, and do that by modeling also. Respect that people need time and space. think about sensory issues, talk about those, like what sensory issues both of you have. Establishing the routines and schedules within your lives can help move through the day and help prevent the triggers, right? And sharing responsibilities equally within the space, working on each other's strengths. So that could be more like if they can't, people don't know how to do that, right? Especially autistic people, if they haven't explicitly been taught something, you can't just say, go do this, because a lot of times they're going to go, okay, and then they leave, come back, and they haven't done a thing. Well, they needed it broke down just a little bit more. They needed to be explicitly taught. So as neurotypical people grew up, picking up on social cues, those hidden social rules, our neurodivergent people didn't. And so it doesn't make sense until they're older, and then they see the world around them, and they're like, why is this happening? Why am I getting reported for stalking? I'm just trying to go to class. Why won't somebody just respond to me? Well, sometimes people have other things going on. Like, so just explain it for a second, and it's just a matter of conversation. Did that help? I hope, with that question. And I know we have people that are in couple relationships where they're both autistic in here. So if you have any comments on this, please feel free to help our audience out with it.
We just got a new one. What are some test taking strategies / tools for students with taking test anxiety?
Yeah, test anxiety, definitely teaching some skills to go through what's causing that anxiety. Is it the time? Is it maybe they overstudied and now they're just really anxious to get in there and just answer it? Is it just a fear related thing? And helping somebody through that. Recently, I talked to our assessment center and they've requested we make 3D printed sensory tools. So we're making some for our testing center, and we're going to have a bowl of them there that are quiet so students that are testing can self-regulate with those. Also, we are going to partner with our VR meditation app to help students that might need to calm down before taking a test or after they take a test through meditation in an immersive environment. So those are some ideas that we're getting off the ground for our students at our campus. As far as individuals, Danielle, Sinjin, Brenton, Aaron, do you have any recommendations for test anxiety? And then we need to move on to the next question.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that Jacqueline Carter, she was my professor this past semester. She did a fantastic job, and also Dr. Durham, giving me that space because they could see the moment that I'm not taking the test, there's no anxiety. I could read music, I can do it. The moment the test starts, I can't think. Everything becomes jumbled. And she would sit there for as long as I needed, talk to me. She would help me. I do have an example what Amber Sarker said. I showed her my studying tools. I was using acronyms. And I could put my email in the chat if anybody is interested in learning exactly how I do my acronyms, because for years I was unable to do rote memorization. I could not do it. I can't do it until I learned how to use my acronyms and my study flashcards. I was actually able to pass very well this past semester using that method.
And what was cool about that is I had the founder of NeuroBats, which was Access Autism, the first president of that student-led group. She was in music as well. And I remember she came to me and was like, they're expecting me to respond within a few seconds of a note or whatever that is that y'all do with the testing there. And because of the processing speed, they can't just get that out that quickly. So what's been awesome, and kudos to our music department, I'm so impressed by y'all. They have accommodated and helped just from having conversations with Aaron. And back then it was that student. They worked with that student too, in understanding that this wasn't something they were terrible at. This is something that they could do. They just needed the gift of time. So that's extremely important, is thinking about the gift of time and not giving so much information at once, allowing that space to give an instruction or a piece of information and pause so they can process. When you're on step 4, they're still on step 1 or 2, and then they're trying to catch up, and then they miss a lot of the interaction. So now we're going to move to the next question. All right, Brenton, what contributes to your burnout?
Trying to fit in and talk to people is hard because of my speech disability. People cannot understand me. It burns me out. I appreciate when people tells me tells me they cannot understand me and asked me to repeat myself instead of performing to understand me and ignore me. I work very hard to make myself heard and appreciate the people who take time to listen to me in every speech their abilities.
Yes, thank you, Brenton. So Brenton has come across, I mean, almost all the time, where people, and by the way, Brenton, you sound awesome today. I can understand everything you said. And so Brenton will talk and people don't really understand Brenton and then they just pretend like they do. But you know what? Brenton knows when people are doing that and it's hurtful. So it's okay to ask, hey, Brenton, I just didn't understand that one part. Can you repeat it for me or can you type it out for me? Right. So Brenton's been practicing with different people talking and it's just a bit of a big change. And I'm very proud of you today. Danielle, can you tell us what contributes to your burnout?
Yeah. So extreme stress is one of them. I can get stressed out, I will say, pretty easily. Again, like poor time management is one of the key factors, but also excessive homework without breaks can also lead me to burnout. It's just like, oh, I need to work on this, and I need to work on this, and I need to work on this, and the pile it just keeps going up, and I keep doing it, and eventually I'll just break down like a car. I won't stop. That's like one of my big problems. I have the need to take a break, but I will not take the break. For example, me and Aaron, we have a homework day together where we will hang out and do homework together on every Saturday. And we have breaks between each hour. That's like 15 minutes. And after we come back, they will ask me, hey, did you take a break? And I'll sit there. At first, I was like, no, well, I decided to clean my whole apartment under 10 minutes and then do the dishes really fast. But my cats were also screaming at me. So I also decided to clean their litter box. At the same time, I decided to juggle the garbage can just for a little bit while like I just did all this crazy stuff. And they sat there and they got so mad. Aaron was like, you should not be doing anything during your break. And I was just like, I can't help it. And they were like, well, don't do anything. So I've been getting better at that. So I didn't have to hear a lecture again. But taking breaks during study sessions is very important for me. And another sources of my stress is pressure to perform well at work and in classes because I don't want people to look at me and go, oh, what's wrong with her? Why is she not doing so well? Why is she not working as well? Why are you not paying attention? Why are you not looking at me? Why are you like, because all these things do come in my head. So I'm constantly walking around trying to make sure my posture is okay. I'm walking around trying to make sure that I'm not breathing out of my mouth like a fish. I am making sure that all these things are going through my head all the time.
Masking.
And
trying to mask.
And recently, a lot of political stress have come up. So that's also been really hard on me as well. That's been a big part of my life recently that I don't want to worry about, but it is. My downtime activities are very important. And what I do in my downtime activities is that I walk away from my computer, I walk around in departments, and I have to set boundaries to myself to stay calm. But also, there's challenges during my downtime. Like I mentioned, all the kitchen is a mess. I need to clean the whole kitchen. Or my cats are yelling at me. Why are my cats yelling at me? And then I'll have my boyfriend who wants to talk about 20,000 things at once because he has, if AHD was a man, it will be him.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a lot of factors.
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, just that the need to perform is huge for neurodivergent persons. They want to do their best, and they want to not just turn in an essay by the rubric. They want to turn in that rubric to the T plus, right? They want to turn in something that is amazing. And sometimes they get stuck in that circle and they just ruminate. So sometimes they just also, when they get stuck, just need somebody to say, this is all you need to do, right? This is the first step. Let's break this down to the first step, do that, and then we can go to the second step. Aaron, or St. John's next. Sorry, St. John, go.
So, a big thing that contributes to my burnout is when I try to mask to appear more neurotypical. That is a big one that contributes a lot, as well as, like, because I do try to maintain eye contact to appear more considerate to others, but it tires me out, makes me burned out. I try to increase my social capacity, but that leads to even more burnout because, like, most people have like a social bucket, whereas I have a social mug. I am a lot less social than the typical person, and I overcompensate for it by talking a lot, but deep down, I don't really like socializing as much. Like, I can do it for a good amount of time, but after a little bit, it starts to just wear down on me. Another thing that contributes to my burnout is how I handle homework. Similar to Danielle, I cannot take breaks because if I do, then I will end up taking a break for the entirety of the day. And that will, like, I will do whatever, like TikTok, whatever it takes. I will be on social media for hours. So I try to get all my homework done in one single sitting. And that, have you ever heard of someone who just sits down and works for 6 hours without getting tired? I know I certainly haven't. And the final thing that contributes to my burnout is when I have to walk for long distances because the soles of my feet are always in a ton of pain whenever I walk. I used to think it was my legs, but I recently realized it was the soles of my feet. Always in pain when I walk from my car to class, always hurts, and that leads to a lot of physical pain. And when I get into the class and I'm trying to take notes or listen to the teacher, it's hard because I'm still recovering from when I was in pain from the walking.
And so let's explain why you would be in pain in your legs.
The reason I'm in pain is because of my disability. I am disabled in my feet, which is why the soles hurt a lot. Like, my feet are naturally turned at a 90-degree angle from each other, which I have severely flat feet as a result of that. And
but you're a dang good break dancer.
I do my best.
All right, Aaron.
Anyway.
Thank you, St. John. Aaron, what contributes to your burnout?
A big contributor for me is masking. It's caused me extreme burnout throughout my life. When I'm in social situations and my actions are taken differently than when I intend, for example, like if I'm attempting to ask clarifying questions in class, but I'm seen as like snobby or annoying, or I'm trying to be playful with people, but I'm seen as rude, I'm unable to read those social cues and understand the complexities of those social interactions, so it burns me out. I become withdrawn and mentally shut down. Only recently did I learn through the help of Sam and also through my therapist at ACC, like how even to start the process of unmasking. And even then, it's extremely hard. Like I said earlier, I'm still masking a bit right now. It's hard for me to just take it all off. Even when I get home from classes after a complete day of masking, I'm completely burnt out. So transitioning from my home environment, I mean from my school environment to my home environment, it takes time. And then you throw in OCD in there with my intrusive thoughts that makes doing quote unquote normal tasks unmanageable, and they take all of my spoons because of those intrusive thoughts forcing me to have everything perfect. So I spend a lot of time just trying to find myself again when I get home. And by the time I feel a little bit better, I have to begin homework. So I end up staying up late constantly, leading to more issues because of the lack of sleep and sensory overload. And then once I finally begin studying, I start to study, but it takes me 6 to 7 hours to read one chapter when it takes another student maybe an hour to read. And I'm completely burnt out afterwards constantly.
Yeah, so what takes a neurotypical student an hour? Like, I see some on some assignments, this should only take this long. Will take a neurodivergent person 3 to 6 times longer to do. And so some of the techniques that I teach the students is instead of sitting down and doing that entire assignment in one sitting, let's look at the date when it's assigned, let's break it into pieces, and then each day agree with yourself by the due date, divide that number into the days and work on it a little bit each day and do this for each class so that by the due date it's done. The other thing is having the accountability partners and just being there with each other. Encourage that. Encourage students to engage in accountability partners so that they aren't getting behind. These Danielle and Aaron used to be really behind in their work in the spring, but they started this interaction where they go online and they just work together. They don't really talk and stuff, but they work. And all semester they've been on time and doing great. So we need to move a little faster. So we're going to go to the coping strategies right now. Dan or Brenton, can you tell us some of your coping strategies?
Okay, I like to listen to musical walks. I used to use my vision to help self-regulate it. I try to stay calm. I love to do crossword puzzles and it helps me calm down and relax. I try to rest I can much I can regulate my emotions in my head to feel better.
Thank you, Brenton. Danielle, what are some of your coping strategies?
Walking is definitely one of my favorite ones. I like going out for walks. I love listening to music when I go for my walks, so I don't have to listen to the cars or have to look at the people that are also walking around. I just focus on my walks. It really helps me relax and calm down and get my brain back together. Needing breaks and managing my spoons is definitely something I need to do more often and I'm working on, and just saving more energy for my self and my spoons. Exercise is also a thing I've been trying to start doing too. Once a week on Fridays when we work at our grow activities, but we're also working on the VR program. It's very important to move around, and it's very important to stand up and walk and go outside, get some fresh air, because sitting down all day, even though you're not doing anything, you actually are just getting more tired from sitting down because you're constantly stretching your legs in a weird way. Hey, it's hard. I don't know, remember what muscle you're constantly using while you're sitting down, but you are using a muscle that can get really tired really fast. That's in your legs. Time management, again, really helps me out to make sure that I get everything done. Drawing also helps. I get to get a pad, just a white pad, and kind of puke all my activities and just how I feel and whatever onto a blank canvas, and I feel much better because I get to express myself onto something and just let it all out. It really helps. And also with my ACC grow job, I get paid and I am also learning a lot of skills in the workplace. If honestly, I think I learned so many important skills with these murals, communication, collaboration, and a lot of communication is definitely in it because I'm making these people's imaginations onto a wall into reality.
Thank you, Danielle. Sinjin, what coping
So,
strategies?
for my feet, it was actually a kind of simple solution. Back like 2 years ago, I went to, I don't know what you call it, but the people who help give you those handicap placards. And I did get one of those, and it allows me to park a lot closer to campuses. For my socializing, I tend to take time to myself before I go into social events to collect myself and give myself the energy to do that, either with meditation through virtual reality called Trip or through just sleeping before events can give me the social energy I need to get through an interaction. And then for my homework, I just minimize myself to an hour and then go to a break.
Thank you. Aaron, what coping strategies do you use?
So having my community at the NeuroBats of Access Autism is the number one most life-changing support I've received. because growing up and being cloistered my entire life made me feel disconnected from the world. So having people who can relate to me and understand me was life changing. During class, though, when things get stressful, having my professors who actually care and listen to me is also helpful and life changing. Whenever a professor takes the time to understand me and work with me, that has changed me from getting perspective S to A's. And I know for a fact that if my professors did not help me in the way that they have in the past, that I would have failed. But actually, like I said earlier, I ended up getting all A's this past semesters because of their gift of time. So I give all of myself in order to just be baseline to what other students are. So one thing I always do is I always make sure to speak to my professors at the beginning of the semester. I lay out all of my disabilities. I let them know how my brain functions. But it took me a long time to before I felt like strong enough to do that because I had internalized ableism and intrusive thoughts that would tell me to pick myself up from the bootstraps or get over it. So, but doing that, talking to them and building that rapport with my professors changed my life. I try to explain to them the best I can what I'm experiencing so that they can help me. But I think the most important thing is that I learned that if I don't do that and use my voice to advocate for myself, I will fall through the cracks.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, so it's important to let them understand them and connect them and teach them how to talk to professors, because sometimes they're seeing professors as like people that they can't talk to for some reason. And so giving them that thought of it's okay to talk to them. They're there to help you. That's why they're there. And you have to give them perspective too. Like, you're not their only student. You have multiple classes. They're teaching along. They don't know you have an issue or a question unless you actually go forward and self-advocate and have those conversations. So we're going to skip to, guys, just so you know, I know this is a change, to supporting autistic persons, just because we're kind of the time. So we're going to go to slide, well, not slide, but we're going to go to the how can faculty, staff, advisors, professors, and society at large support autistic students? And we'll start with Brenton. So that might confuse Brenton. Brenton, skip the next question and go to the next one.
I would love to people to do research on speech activities and realize that just because I am not speaking of that that one that does not mean I have nothing to do, nothing to say. You can support me by asking me by repeat myself and asking me to speak slowly and spending time to get know me and understanding that I will be upset if you ask me and say anything. You can talk to me and ask me questions to get here to get know me instead ignoring me. How and you can become my friend and get to know me instead of judging me by my speech disabilities.
Thank you, Brenton. Danielle, how can people support autistic persons?
I think one of the big things to understand is a small tax to who other people can be a big tax to someone else. It is hard for us to do simple things. But there's one big thing I really want to talk about, and is where these students are coming from. And I'm not talking about households, because every student has a different situation. I'm talking about the programs that we get put into middle school, high school, junior high. So, as someone who went through, I'm not saying that all of them treat their students poorly, but the majority of the ones that I went to, they treated us really badly, especially the one that was in junior high. They come in and they imagine you're an autistic student and they come in and you're chilling with all your classmates, and then you have someone coming in and say, hey, you need to come with me. So you think you're in trouble, but in reality, you're going into the special ed class. you get forced to put your head down constantly. You're not learning anything. You're told to walk in a line. You're not allowed to talk to any of the other students, hang out with other students. Since you are only stuck in this classroom talking to the other students, and the teachers are very rude to you. This happened to me. They were very abusive. They were very rude and mean to us, and made me feel that it's not okay to be autistic. The only one that was actually really good was the one I went in Florida. The teacher there was really nice and sweet, but these programs can really put the message, hey, because you're autistic, you're extremely different, and you gotta be put in this class. And you're not allowed to interact with anyone else. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to be so nice. I'm sorry, I'm trying to mask. I'm trying so hard. But it's a very sensitive topic for me because I don't think anyone fully understands how much these classes impact the autistic students. It feels like you're a prisoner and you're like being punished for something that you're not even are. And so when students come in to college after experiencing those type of classes, they don't tell anyone. That's what I did when I first came. I didn't want to tell anyone that I'm autistic. I didn't want to tell anyone at all that I need help. Because last time I did that, I was thrown into a different class and mistreated. And I was very lucky enough to be able to go to the school because I learned that there's a lot more programs here. And the teachers here are much more willing to understand and listen. And I think that's really good and amazing. But a lot of students are so scared to really speak out. And I think making them feel comfortable enough and have them understand, hey, it's okay to be autistic. It's okay to have disabilities. We are here to support you and we are here to help you. And having that means so much to me and to Aaron, to Sinjin, Brenton, to all the students here. Another big thing that can help is, again, communication with professors. One of my professors, his name was Brenton. Sorry, no, not Brenton, sorry. Brandon, sorry. His name was Brandon. He was my 3D animation teacher. And I actually asked him, I asked a few teachers, what is something that you want to know about autism, stuff like that? And what he said stood out to me a lot. He said that the fact that I was so vocal about my autism and any questions he had, I was willing to answer, helped him understand so much. And now he's able to help other students too.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate you being open about your experiences. So next up is Sinjin.
So when it comes to writing assignments, I would say put a space between every 6 lines of text. That can really help a lot with my reading deficit. And, I would say for assignments, most of the times, they do recap it, but it's hard for me to know exactly what I'm doing, what they're telling me to do is they tell me this stuff is due at this time, but I'm like, well, what is this stuff? Some professors are good about that, and I like them a lot for that. Some can be, yeah, I would just say the recapping, what I have to go over, and do for homework before the week is good. And giving the gift of time to give me time to understand, be able to take notes, be able to, understand what they're saying, because half the time it's hard for me to focus on the notes when they're already 3 slides ahead of me.
Thank you, Sinjin. Aaron, how about you?
So I'm gonna try to go quick. I know we're short on time, but this is my favorite slide, and this slide is very important to me. So listening. So first of all, how can you support autistic students and neurodivergent students? Listening to autistic and neurodivergent people, and just like Sinjin just said, providing the gift of time is life changing. For professors, giving students the gift of time is a necessity. For a student like me, it takes me 15 hours to do something that may take another student 20 minutes. And I am not being hyperbolic. It just happened. During this past semester, I had two exemplary professors, Professor Carter and Dr. Durham, who are actually here today, who showed me immense compassion and helped me achieve everything I set my mind to. They provided me with the gift of time and the gift of compassion. They met with me 4 times a week, every single week, and spent extra time with me on Zoom and office hours weekly to make sure that I understood what was happening. For exams, I needed time to sit quietly. I need to think out loud and say what's on my mind because I have a million different thoughts at once and a million different emotions, and I can't process everything just by audiating it in my head. So in class, if I'm called in, if I'm called on in class to sing in front of somebody, I feel more than just anxiety and fear. My entire body screams from the inside out, and I want to fall on the floor and begin self-regulating and tapping myself because I cannot control the feelings, and it's impossible to explain. And I see other students, they also experience anxiety, but somehow they can tuck it in. They can tuck those fears aside and get up and sing. For me, it took every ounce of myself not to run into a corner, scream, and tap my entire body to self-regulate. Then after I'm forced to scream, to sing, I'm completely burnt out, can't think, I don't know what I'm doing. So taking my exams with other students, I can hear everybody moving, breathing, tapping their pencils. It stops me from thinking. Even the lights, I can't think. So it feels like I'm trapped and I can't escape. I need to think out loud and verbalize everything. But unfortunately, the music industry at large, not at ACC, but at large, there's not a lot of known accommodations because they just expect you to get it. For me, it takes me longer. So I'm in the process of advocating for more accommodations for music students because I don't want any autistic or neurodivergent student to think that they cannot achieve their passion for music. The accommodations include color-coded music, which Jacqueline Carter did for me, different computer programs that read and train in sight reading for dysmusia, which is like dyslexia and dyscalculia for music, quadruple plus time for exams, going one bar at a time, and there's many others. But I hope schools can enforce these new accommodations to help other autistic and neurodivergent students like me follow their passion for music, but also succeed.
Thank you, all the students, for answering those questions and giving us information. So let's quickly run through these last bits because we are running out of time, big time. Andrew, can you bring up slide 21, please? So if you just want to take a picture of this is just some tips, right? And supporting autistic persons that the students here have thought of, and things that I know that are helpful. And always, if anybody has questions and they want to talk more to me, feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat. Okay. And then, okay. And then, so the next slide, please. Actually, we're going to skip 22 and go to 23. So it's really important to have wraparound services for autistic individuals and neurodivergent individuals. It helps reduce the burnout. It helps reduce unmasking. It's been transformational for students. I have students that have gone from a 1.0 GPA to over a 3.0 GPA, just having a continuum of wraparound services and support. Sometimes it's just about having that one person there for a student to be connected to that they trust and that can help that student and lift that student up. That will make the difference between if they succeed or don't succeed. Next slide. So empowering through support, some more tips: strength-based learning, communicating across environments, seeing the person, not the stigma, help them build community. They don't really know how to do that. Help them find their voice, encourage self-advocacy, and provide the why behind things. These students have utilized their strengths and within their work, and different strengths as far as like presenting, talking, writing, creating, in order to encompass what they know into building the skills and the core competencies that they need to take beyond our academic setting and into the work world. So this is the most recent mural that Danielle created at the Cypress campus. It was very large. And then Sinjin, she mentored Sinjin. So if you'll play that real quick, you can see the process of this mural. So let me tell you that I saw this in person yesterday and the pictures don't do it justice. There's so much detail in this that you can stand there and see something new every time you look at it. So that's just one example of how our GROW students are embracing what they're learning through the GROW program, through NeuroBats, through the VR program, and through their major, and that have had the supports, the wraparound services to help elevate them towards success. The second one we want to show you video is from Erin at South by Southwest. So if we can just play a little snippet of slide 26, that would be fantastic.
But I need people to know that getting a medical diagnosis is a privilege. A lot of people do not have that privilege because of money or many reasons why they may not be able to go and get that diagnosis. And a lot of colleges require paper diagnoses to get help, which breaks my heart because it really shows me and makes me understand my own privilege. So I wrote this article specifically to let professors, advisors, and staff know it's impossible to know what somebody's going through when you look at them. You will never know, especially if you don't let them tell you. So I've been told my entire life, like we say, I don't look autistic, so that stopped me from progressing. But I lost years of my life this way. I learned how to mask before I could. I learned how to mask because that was the only way that I could survive, which caused deep trauma. But many students need that help, but they don't get it because of those limitations of having a paper diagnosis. And they are stigmatized for that, and it's not fair.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up, but we have just 2 more points to make. How can professors, advisors, and administrators help neurodivergent students?
So not being afraid to try something new, like Dr. Shaylee O'Brien, Dr. Wayne Davis, Dr. Stephen Sodders, like I talked about. Being willing to try something new like they did changed my life. Also, me and you, we created a model to help people at our college build more inclusivity towards neurodivergent students. So it's L, remember to always tie your laces. And me and Sam created that. And LACES stands for, L is to listen without judgment.
A is advocate as an ally.
C is to care with compassion and kindness.
E is for education, for building.
Understanding.
And S is to create inclusive spaces for neurodivergent students.
Support.
Support and advocate for inclusive spaces. So what types of support should be available in academic settings?
So there are still a lot of people out there who question even autism's existence. There's people out there who question my gender identity, like saying non-binary people don't exist. There's some people that believe these supports are not needed. But I'm here today to tell you that they are needed. I'm advocating for all schools worldwide to implement the same types of supports that we have at ACC, like people like you, transformation coaches, neurodiverse specialists, student organizations like the NeuroBats of Access to Autism, and the GROW program, which is what helped me gain this opportunity to speak with you all today. Without those supports, I wouldn't be here.
So, final question. What is needed to build an inclusive environment for neurodivergent students?
You have to see us for who we are, because we're human just like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was an awesome experience for us to present at. However, it took a toll on Aaron. And I want to share this because Aaron, in that presentation, we're used to doing presentations like this with TEXAAN and within our college, but this was a larger scale audience with tons of people from different areas. And Aaron shared some very personal things in that, which eventually led to a shutdown. So it took Aaron a lot of work and us working together and supporting to help bring Aaron out of that shutdown, because it brought back a lot of PTSD from Aaron's past. So we have to be careful sometimes with what we're asking from our students as well, because like Aaron said, we don't know what they're coming in the door with. We don't know for sure. And we can't expect that they're going to share it with us. But what we can do is have care, compassion, joy, and say yes to them. So ACC, the SENO is the first community college department to earn certified neurodivergent workplace, and our biotech department is next up. And then Aaron talked about LACEs in our presentation, and so there it is. And if you'd like to take a picture of that, it's fine. We're actually going to start having stickers with this on it. Again, it's what's L stand for?
L is to listen without judgment.
A is for?
A is to advocate as an ally.
C is for?
Care with compassion and kindness.
Now, Brenton, E is for?
Education to others to build an understanding.
And S is for support and create inclusive spaces. And with that, I think this concludes our presentation for you. And again, we're so grateful to have all of you here. And I think we have just a few moments for any other follow-up questions that you have. Otherwise, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to respond. We really appreciate being here, and for everybody that attended, we're grateful.
I'll tell you this, I've used all my spoons.
Yeah, I think we all have.
Same.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate hearing the conversation. Quick question. In the fall, do you guys plan on offering the Dungeons and Dragons event that you run regularly?
So
yeah, we're going to try to. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so we're going to try to. So we have another leader who's running that, who's under our group, and we were actually going to try to contact him pretty soon here to see if he will be able to continue that.
Yes,
Yeah, I wondered about turnout for something like that, because a lot of students, and just in general, they're new, and how do I get involved? How do I get connected? You don't have to be, neurodivergent to have that desire. And the fact that, hey, your group is active and here's a regularly occurring thing you can go to. They're open to everyone. And so I generally point students in that direction because it's there.
Yeah.
So hopefully you got people.
Thank you. we brought that other leader under our wing to teach them how to start a student organization. And we're still trying to help that student get it off the ground. And so we're hoping that they'll come back and keep that D&D going, because I know it was fun for a lot of people. We always have to struggle with what times to do things, what days to do things. And we're trying to go have leaders maybe at different campuses to run things. And so that one was our first to add to offering something at a different campus. But thank you for that question and encouraging people to connect with us. Oh, and you may scan that QR code to read some of the newsletters that Erin has created. And this is our NeuroBat duck that was created by Danielle.
Jennifer has a question.
Okay. What's up, Jennifer?
It's nothing big. I just want to say thank you on behalf of you guys for everyone presenting, from Danielle, Lydia, St. John, Brennan, Aaron, all of you guys for coming and presenting on behalf of TEXAAN, for everyone on the board, for me, Trevor, everybody at TEXAAN. We appreciate you guys coming out and doing this webinar for everybody. It's great information. It's always great information. It's great to hear from you guys. So I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of TEXAAN, and thank you guys for putting on this webinar for us.
So we actually have a follow-up presentation to this that we're hoping we can engage with you on, which is on, what is it, Erin? Self-regulation and stimming.
Oh, it's going to be mostly focused on stimming and self-regulation.
Yeah, and that's going to be a new topic for us to cover as well, and it feeds into this one. So hopefully we can work with TEXAAN to bring that one forward as well.
Talking about stuff, this whole time I've been like petting my duck to keep me calm and be able to focus. I know that sounds funny, but yeah, this is my sort of stimming. I have a duck that I play with.
Yeah, Danielle loves ducks, so even in all her murals, you'll see a little duck in there. And like this
the
guy's
duck was the one masking or mimicking in the image there. The little duck was the one.
They're all ducks.
They're all ducks. She loves ducks, so you'll see ducks wherever Danielle does artwork. That's her signature is a duck. And this guy, our mascot, you know, he might be a river bat, he might be a duck, but what does it matter? Everybody wants to be a river bat. So that's our message with him. Anybody else have anything for us before we let you go on with your Friday and your weekend?
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone. This was amazing. I appreciate you, and please continue to share this. And then also remember, we professors can share in this emotional labor part. I know that this is exhausting to have to share all this. So anything we can do to help with the lift, please let us know.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. We love talking to professors, and we're hoping that we can connect with professors on a larger scale to engage, because I know professors have a lot of questions that these students are willing to talk and self-advocate and answer.
Thank you all for attending. I'm very grateful to everyone who attended, and to do this presentation with my fellow NeuroBats, but also Grow Associate leaders.
Cool. All right. With that, thank you again, and have a wonderful day and weekend.